Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity to share my experiences with this Amur Carp for the almost last 16 years. Probably I am the only retired person on the dais, all other in service. I think that is the recognition they have given to me. I'm thankful to them. I think now from Indian, we are going to exotic. All the species which were discussed about rohu, katla and other things, they are our Indian major carps. What we are going to discuss about Amur carp is an exotic carp, but it is not new. Probably this common carp strain was much got long history all over the globe and also in India. I think what I am going to do is I am not going to talk anything about the quality seed, genetic improvement, breeding program, anything, because that has been dealt very in detail by previous speakers. Straight away, I am just going to, with a few slides, what was the necessity for developing this common carp? What is the role of this common carp, which has been becoming an integral part of our aquaculture system, not from now, right since the independence, when these two trains were introduced to India way back in 1937 and 1957. And what was the necessity for looking for a new strain of common carp, and what was the reason, and what is the rationale we did, and how we went about it, and what is the long journey we went about, what is the present status, what we should do to take it further. I think this is an important occasion. I think the first time I am sharing this experience with a vast audience with different fields. Probably all my sharings were only with the institutes or the students or other. Probably here we have policy makers, students, scientists, and from industry people. With a few of these words, straight away I'll go to presentation. I think I already told what I'm going to speak in my presentation. I think this is almost like a repetition, and if you look into that carp all over the world and including Asia, I think carps are the major contributors to inland fish production, either from enhanced fisheries or through aquaculture. That is mainly because of relatively easily captive breeding, high fecundity, because you need few breeders to produce a huge quantity of seed. I think that is one of the disadvantages which may lead to inbreeding also, because few breeders are sufficient to meet a huge requirement. Then the good growth rate and feeding at lower food chain. The good thing about these carps is they are both natural feeders as well as accept external feed, and that's why they can adapt to a wide variety of aqua systems, right from the reservoirs, tank, ponds. And they are also well suited to low input systems, and ability to adapt to a wide range of agroclimatic conditions like temperature range, shallowness, water retention period, etc. And that's why they make an ideal species for especially enhanced fisheries and both for inland fisheries and aquaculture. I think you must have been looking for these figures for long. Why I put these figures is not that everybody knows, but even though we say we have got 27 or 28 species and the Indian major carp 6 species, if you look into the reality, what is happening now in it, probably our whole polyculture system, so-called, is probably restricted to only 3 species or 4 species, katla, rohu, and common carp. And mrugal is almost non-existent in the aquaculture system. So the most important 3 species are katla, rohu, and common carp. I think a lot of work has been done in CIFA right from 90s on both rohu, and they started recently on katla also. Common carp at national level, it is not, I'll come to that later. Again, these other species which have got the attention of entrepreneurs, especially progressive farmers. Now they have species diversification. They're looking into different like tilapia, pangasius, venami. Now even they say 0 PPT seed are available, so it can be grown in freshwater also, and giant freshwater pond. But if you look into the contribution of this, still carps play a major role, accounting to more than 90%. I think, and as per the information what we got during our visits, I think 50% is rohu, 30% is katla, and another 20% is rohu, and another 15%, and contribution by other species like high value fishes, is only 5%. Okay, coming to the present status seed production, I think I'll not go much into this. Even now, the seed production in most of the, all over the India is mostly state controlled. That means the most of the seed production requirement is met by the state-owned hatcheries, or nowadays, even state-owned hatcheries, they are going for outsourcing, getting seed from private. But most of the state, as I told you earlier, all the seed production is revolving around only three to four species, accounting to nearly 90%. So farmers have a very few options, even though we say we have got so many number of species for aquaculture species, but in practical, only three species are under culture. And recently, some superior breeds have come, like Jayanti Rohu, Katla, and Common Carp. But the problem is, even though they are in good demand, the very main constant is inadequate broodstock and seed availability. And except the state of Andhra Pradesh and West Bengal, I think most of the state are state deficit. They are depending on other states for the seed supply. And all these figures already given by my pre-speaker, almost we have a gap of about 500 crores seed deficit. This is the present seed status. Coming to the significance of Common Carp, first I'll talk about the Common Carp itself. What is the significance? It's an aquaculture system. The Common Carp is one of the probably highly domesticated, and you can call it as a global fish. It has been practiced in many countries, like almost in China is more than 4,000 years back, and about several hundred years in Europe. And there are many races or strains of Common Carp. They call it races, land races, strains, breeds, and stock, so and so. Mainly have been developed either through geographical isolation or through they got adopted once they import them. They get adapted to that particular region, or through mutation and selection process. So, but there are a number of Common Carp is in a global fish. Coming to the India, the Common Carp was, probably all of you know that it was introduced two times, once in 1937 and another one is 1957. The first one was called Persian carp, which is called scale carp, which is presently still existing. And other one was the Bangkok strain. Probably that was imported only because of the golden color attraction. But if you ask me now whether we have any pure species, answer is no. Because for the last few decades, they have been mixed up, and what available right now, what we call is two varieties, which this is most commonly found species in present aquaculture. It's called big belly carp, and this one actually is not a really Bangkok strain. The color is not there, but what the present is available is only the big belly strain. And this was introduced way back for the purpose of polyculture is an omnivore. So to utilize all the food available, and also as a replacement as a bottom feeder. This was introduced in 1937, 1957, and it has become almost an integral part of aquaculture, especially in southern regions and southeastern regions, where it is the most of the inland fisheries and is dependent on the rain-fed small tanks, seasonal tanks, which retain water only for a few months. And for that purpose, because the common carp seed is available almost throughout the year, because Indian major carps are restricted, probably the seeds are not available, especially in the southern region, after September to October. But most of the tanks are rain-fed. They received rain during the late monsoon. So the available seed was that, and so it has become almost, for example, in Karnataka, we did a survey. I think the 45% of the seed stocked, both by farmers in ponds, as well as in tanks and reservoirs, 45% is contributed by common carp, and in the production, from the production side, it contributes about 35% of the total inland fish production of the state. With this background, because wizard is one of the big species, what are the disadvantages with families? See, there are a few disadvantages with existing rain. One is the early sexual maturation, and this early sexual maturation leads to spawning well before the marketable size. So we did almost 2-year study way back in 1999-2000. Before taking up this program for improving, finding the solution for this program, we did studies, and we have seen wherever at least weeds are there, this particular strain starts attain maturity at the end of 3 to 4 months and starts breeding, spawning in about 6 months. especially whenever the wheat is available for deposition of eggs. And this leads to extra recruitment because most of the growing period is by the time you bring the seed, put it already 2 months, and by the time your growing season is about another 8 months, they completely become mature and spawning in your aquaculture, fish culture ponds. And this leads to new recruitment and leading to overpopulation, competition for food and space, and this ultimately affects growth. And another disadvantage with this big belly carp is high GSI. You can see the bulging belly, it's almost 25 to 30% is the ovary, especially in case of males. So when they become completely harvest, they are completely mature, what you get edible portion is almost like less than 60% if you remove everything. So this is another disadvantage. So keeping this in background, we tried many options. Even we tried production of triploid or sterile fish. We were successful, but commercially it was not easy to use the technology. Then we tried to produce monosex using hormonal sex reversal and progeny testing. And ultimately then what we thought was, this was the project was started after thinking almost 2 years what are the options. Then we thought best is to whether we can identify a stock which has a better traits like late maturing and fast growing, and then further develop it. With this objective, what it did was, because it's an exotic carp, unlike Katla or Rohu, where they are the nature, you can collect it from the natural resources and start breeding program. Since it's an exotic carp, we have to depend. So what we did was, this was in a project we had under DFID for almost 11 years. We contacted different countries who own this, use this common carp, like Hungary from Sarvas, that is research center, then Vietnam, and also from Indonesia. And we got 4 strains, and we got 2 from Hungary, one is Amur, and another one is a P3 line. One from Indonesia and one from Vietnam. Then we used 2 local strains which were available already, one at our own research station and another from the State Department BR Project Fish Farm. We considered them because they were reproductively and genetically isolated for a few years, so they are never meeting. So we thought to take strict sense. And before we started anything, what we did was we did a preliminary study, like what is the objective. We did a 1 year survey on different. So what we did was we studied what is the importance of common carp, particularly in Karnataka. We found out this is one of the important species. So we thought we should go for finding solutions for this early sexual maturation and late maturation and faster growth. So what we did was we got the 6 strains, got them completely, we had developed, So we also looked into first, we brought them, look into analysis, for produce 36 different line diagonal crossing. We got 6 cross, we produced into 6 into 6 cross and reciprocal crosses, 30 things. And all these 36 lines were evaluated during 6 years evaluation period with involving all growth and them. So this 6 years evaluation under different farming systems and environments like monoculture, polyculture, cement tanks, earthen ponds, seasonal tanks. We had a lot of more than 300, 400 trials we conducted. After all these assessments, what we found was that Amur strain, what we found that it was to perform consistently superior to all other pure stocks and also crosses, including closed stocks, in all the trials across all culture systems and environments. So what we do is that once we identified this, thought these are the best suited. Then we went for improving it, not through any, like their breeding program. We went through what we call modified mass selection program. So where you select the best and go for and maintain the effective population size so that whatever you get, you will not lose. So we went for the modified mass selection program that I will show it. And we further developed. We conducted the trials for about more than 6 years. And after 6 years evaluation, and this was officially released by the university, and the gain was something like, it varied from 13 to 50% depending on the type of ponds and the culture system. The lowest was in the small cement tanks, and the highest was in the larger ponds of 1 acre, half an acre in the farmers' ponds. The average was about 27.3%. After rigorous evaluation and following the protocols, university released this in 2006. And these are some of the salient factors of this Amur carp, and this is the picture. And it looks slightly different. It's easy to, because as she said, it is not a breeding program for that particular. What we had identified and developed, improved it further. So it is easy to identify in the field because the body is like elongated and scaly, and color also a bit silver gray, and it fast growing and late maturing because they start spawning only after they attain maturity around 8 to 10 months. The first spawning is around 12 to 15 months, and males attain at the end of about 1 year. So we selected for late maturing and fast growing, and we did some susceptible to diseases in the Mangalore Fisheries College, and they were found not susceptible to diseases. So what we did was, after initial version, then we wanted to validate this performance across the state. So we, under the DBT funded project, we conducted a total of around 50 demonstrations in different districts representing different agroclimatic conditions and different environments, different farming systems, monoculture, polyculture, and different. And 3 years result is clearly validated what we said. It was around Amur was about 29 to 30% increase growth over the local stocks. Then after this evaluation, then we thought, okay, we have done it. It was mostly in Karnataka. Then we thought, we approached NFDB to develop a brood bank for this. And in 2011, NFDB gave us a project for 5 years to developing a brood bank of Amur Common Carp with the objective of quality seed production. That is, see that whatever is gained is not lost. So what we went for is, as I said, modified mass selection program and dissemination to different states, conduct demonstrations across the country, at least wherever the demand for Amur Carp is there, and then get the feedback, arrange workshops and training programs or whatever sensitization programs, and the ultimate is bring this Amur into the main seed supply. And this is what I was talking about, the mating, protocol for producing the quality seed is multi-selection. So we go for individual, mating, especially for breeder seed production. We go for individual mating, that is one male and one female. And at a time, at a batch, we put about 100 batches at a time, so that at least expecting about 80% response. And in most of the case, we got around 70-80%. Every time what we do is, from 80 batches, they are allowed to spawn separately, then pool equal number from all the spawning batches to make your breeder seed. That means your effective population is quite high, and your gene pool also is from different 50 individuals. And what we did under this NFDP program, we supply to breeder seed to mostly the institutes, because we didn't want to take any risk with the private. We gave it to the different state department and universities to have build up the brood stock and further get their feedback. And similarly, we supplied, we can see about 18 states spreading across India, except the northern parts, UP, and where the common carp is not very popular. But you can see that central India, north, east India, southern India, there is a good demand. And we supplied to all of the states and got the feedback. And the feedback from different states, I think the NFDP has got a full report. So I am just summarizing it. We got, out of the 18 states, we got at least about 10 states, we got a feedback on different aspects. You can see here that increase from Karnataka, Meghalaya, then Assam, this is Pantnagar is in Uttarakhand, I think, Manipur, then Tripura, and Haryana. And the interesting part was, we gave this C2 Institute, CFI Institute in Rohtak. They conducted in the saline soils, and the feedback was, their performance was better than Indian major carps, and also it matured and bred in saline waters. And this is the latest I got from Dr. Rajarna, who is working at FRIC Hebbard. He has been conducting these trials for last year under a project, comparison in polyculture with Katla and Rohu. Here also you can see in most of these tanks, Amur Carp farm is almost equivalent or better than other carps. And the 4 states, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, they have got 2 seed production centers. West Bengal has taken one. And Meghalaya, I think one of the state which has already started that ICR research complex at Barapani and the State Department of Fisheries together, they started a brood bank for all the Indian major carps and also Amur Carp. But recently they are more concentrated on Amur Carp. And another one is at NFBB at Bhubaneswar. We have supplied about 5,000 seed to them. And they also have the breed and they started multiplying and giving it to the solid. And this is about the dissemination in Amur Carp. In Meghalaya, I think Meghalaya have taken in a large scale. Even they have started distributing seed to the farmers. They're getting seed from ICR Research Complex, produce and sell it. And also even they started ranching program in one of the reservoirs and is giving very good results. And we also arranged 3-4 sensitization programs during this period for the 90 participants from 18 states participated in this program. And the recommendations general was feedback. And Dr. Sugandan was also there as a senior consultant at that time. He attended the final one. And we have to introduce this breed into the mainstream aquaculture, establish brood banks, multiplications and major aquaculture species, at least start with where there is a good demand, they can start it, and exploit its potential both in monoculture and as well as polyculture. And I think this is a good species for cage culture because it accepts artificial feed. Then slowly, we can replace this species since the growth is good. In a phased manner, we can slowly replace this Amur Carp with the existing carp, and we can increase the fish production by around 25%. And this is just a comparison of these 2 species lines. That is the present one, Big Belly Carp and the Amur Carp, which are already repeated, so I don't want to repeat. It's just a comparison in a nutshell. And suitability to different culture systems and environments. Because this is being adaptable to wedding, it can tolerate a wide temperature range right from 10 degrees to 40 degrees. This is another advantage. That's why it is performing well in northern states, in paddy cum fish culture, and even in Himachal Pradesh, and that in the Darjeeling, in the northern part of West Bengal. And under polyculture, it can replace or substitute the existing common carp and good species for high altitude and low temperature environment, suitable for rice cum fish culture system, and well suited for inland saline soils. And that's what I said, we got it feedback. And production potential, you can get about 4 to 5 tons under monoculture, under semi-intensive monoculture, and can replace the present local carp as a bottom feeder in polyculture along with Katla and Rohu, and we can increase the production by about 25%. Present status is, it performs well, because I have visited many states and there is a good demand, but major constraint is seed availability and the broodstock availability. At present, only whereas the FRS Yaraguntappa, where it started, we have their nucleus seed, still they continue to do it, produce and give it, but they cannot meet the requirement, huge requirement because of the limited facilities and infrastructure available. Another place available is at NFBB Bhubaneswar, then ICR Research Complex, Meghalaya. So what should we do is the way forward is, should continue this maintaining the quality seed production, nucleus seed production, with seeing that by using the same method so that your quality is not lost. And go for, now only NFBB has got a brood bank. I think we need more, both involved with either private or public institute, brood bank, then go for multiplication centers, monitor quality control, then package practices between the multiplication and the production centers. I think if you can do this, we can bring this Amur Carp into the main production system, aquaculture system of the country. Thank you.